All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you all are doing well. This is the NBA Tournament Strategy Show. And on this show, we look back at last night's slate. A little hard to do today. And then we will also look at today's slate. And then on the pre-lock show, we go through leverage plays, core plays, things of that sort. To join the pre-lock show, click the link in the description. Feel free to use promo code BOB for a 10% discount. But yeah, it's hard to look at last night's slate because a lot of websites don't have the link to see what the top winning lineup was. So I can't show the screenshot like I typically do. I had an okay night personally, slightly profitable, but nothing too special, to be honest. Anthony Davis helped a lot. He didn't exceed value by a ton, but he had a solid day. He had the most raw points on the slate. We were over the field on Joel Embiid, so that panned out pretty well. We were over the field on Curry, so that worked pretty well. I wasn't on Giddy. Didn't have a ton of Doncic. Bradley Beal was a leverage play, so that worked out. We were over the field on Ivy and a lot of those guys. Chris Middleton was a core play, so that went pretty well. I would say what didn't go as well was Tyus Jones, but that hurt everybody, so that didn't really move the needle for me too much. Marvin Bagley was pretty meh, so that kind of sucked again. And then Mo Wags was a core play, and so that went pretty well too. And quickly, that didn't go great. He was a core play, but again, that kind of hurt everybody. So solid night, not bad. Not going to complain about it. Wish winning lineup so we can kind of compare what that looked like, but we can't have everything the way we want it all the time. So let's jump right into today's slate. It's an interesting one. Should be less crazy than yesterday. Yesterday was wild, man, wild. But for the most part, landed on the right side of things, so not super upset about it. Starting off, we have the Hawks. You guys know how I feel about the Hawks. I don't love playing these guys when everyone's healthy. A matchup against the Wizards is pretty bleh to me. Nothing really stands out too much. It looks like Trae Young and team is getting some decent ownership. Let's go. Michael Ortiz, what's up? Won second place in the tournament. Thanks for the advice. That's freaking awesome, man. Love to see that. I don't know if you posted a screenshot or anything anywhere. I didn't see it, but that is awesome. Congrats, man. Love to see you getting so close to a takedown, but second place is still a nice win. So congrats, man. And Dave, good to see you, man. Good to see you. Appreciate you showing up, and agreed. If you all could hit the like button and subscribe, that always helps. Oh man, I'm so happy for Michael, guys. That's freaking awesome. I love seeing people do well. But back to this slate. You all know me. I don't love playing these Hawks guys when they're healthy. Sadiq Bey is a solid usage guy. He's been kind of messing things up for the other guys that don't include Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. So it's made them less interesting plays. Bogdanovich hasn't been seeing a lot of run here lately either. So if I'm going to take a shot on this team, I'm fine with being around field weight to Trae Young, fine being around field weight to DeJounte Murray. But honestly, guys, I'm not really excited to play the Hawks tonight. That's just me. They are in the game that has the highest game total, and so that's why I'm not Xing them out of my player pool. I'm just not trying to go overweight on them a lot, again, unless something crazy stands out. Next up, we have the Washington Wizards, and we have Monty Morris listed as TBD. Bradley Beal, that leverage play worked out pretty well yesterday. I think the sim model likes him once again today. I say it all the time. I don't have to always understand why the sim model likes guys, but I'm willing to go back to him again tonight because it does still like him, and he's still only 8,100, and so that's why he's popping so much everywhere. It's because he's 8,100. He's been in really good form lately, and so he should be more expensive. For me personally, when I start to hit on some of these guys and they've been doing pretty well consistently, my brain starts to say, when are you going to jump off the train? It's getting more popular. And so I'm itching towards wanting to not play him as much tonight, to be honest. But I'm going to really need something to stand out to find a really good reason for why not to do it, because matchup is solid. His price tag is solid. Ownership isn't outrageous. It's really hard to find a great reason for why not to, outside of everyone's healthy. So that's something I'm going back and forth on. If he was lower owned, it would be an easier leverage play like yesterday, but a little bit tougher at this ownership. When everyone's healthy, I don't like taking shots on these guys. Denny Avdija at 4,400, not seeing high 20 minutes. viable play because right now we're kind of desperate for value, but not something I'm excited about. Porzingis is popping from an ownership standpoint. Matchup against the Hawks isn't super intimidating. So I'm okay being around field weight, but nothing standing out enough for me, at least as of right now, to make me want to go over the field on him. So the only guy I'm okay with going over the field on here is Bradley Beal. Weird. Great game environment, but no one really stood out that much to me. But to be honest, that's kind of just how this slate is. There's a few questionable tags, but not enough to really make guys stand out. So we have like the opposite issue of yesterday. Yesterday, everybody was getting ruled out. So we had a ton of options. Today, it's looking like it might get a little tough. So hopefully we get some good news from like an injury news standpoint that will make things more exciting. You know, as a DFS player, you can never be too happy. It's either not enough news or too much news, like yesterday. For the Trailblazers against the Celtics, Anthony Simons is still out. Nurkic is questionable. That's really important because that's a big ding to guys like Eubanks and Watford. If Nurkic plays, they're not viable plays for me tonight, especially against the Celtics, who are a solid defensive team. Ryan Archidiakono is out. Ebo Daji's out, and then Winslow's been out for a while. Again, the matchup against the Celtics is one that I don't like to pick on very much. But Damian Lillard at 2% ownership is always more interesting to me than when he's a chalk play. So he's someone that's on my radar as a potential leverage play. Grant, I'm not as interested in when Nurkic is playing, but Simons is still out, so he does still have some elevated usage. So he's someone I want to look a little bit closer at, but I doubt I'll have a ton of. Cam Reddish has been fantastic here recently. Similar story with Matisse Thybulle. I've been on the Thybulle train for a while. I think I might. Well, Cam Reddish was a core play, I think, on the last slate they played. So I guess I've been on that train too. But that was more of like a domination station play. I didn't really force it too much. So I plan on having exposure to both of them if we don't get better value on this slate. And my thought process behind that is they're only in the 4K range. They both are playing solid minutes. They're relatively low points per minute, guys. So if their ownership goes up a lot more to like 30 or 35%, I'm a lot less interested in them. But at this ownership, with not a lot of value, it makes sense. All right. Nice. Oh, you did post it. I just missed it. Sorry, Michael. I need to I'll try to remember to screenshot it for tomorrow. Noble almost won 1,200 a few days ago off 6 players, but Luca failed me. Man, Luca, come on, man. S. Scott said you was right about Bane, bro. Nice. I'm glad that worked out. You know, I I promise. Like, I think sometimes people think I'm lying when I say like I really do just have a short-term memory. Like even when things go well, I honestly do forget about it. So I'm glad that some of the plays panned out. Said hello, always great information. How much for a subscription? I don't know the cost right off the top. But if you click the link in the description, it should take you right to that page that shares it. I think it's $69.99 a month, but I don't know if that's for all of the plans or just one plan. So I'll need to take a look at that, to be honest. That's on me. Thomas Dye said, what's up, Josiah? I got your message. I'm driving. Awesome. Nice. Oh, it was a good night. Good. Awesome. Glad to hear it. All right. So yeah, there's some interesting leverage plays from this game in team, but I'm more interested in taking shots if Nurkic ends up getting ruled out. I would just feel a lot better about it. Whereas right now, I feel a little bit iffy, but everyone feels iffy about it, and that's why they're low owned. The Celtics, again, are healthy now. Tatum was not on the injury report. Horford was not on the injury report. Pritchard is questionable. Doesn't really move the needle for me too much, to be honest, but whenever someone's out, it definitely does benefit someone. So we'll deal with that if we get that news that he's actually not playing. Robert Williams is out, and so that does make Al Horford a little bit more interesting to me. And then Danilo Gallinari has been out for a while now. So I do think Tatum's getting decent ownership for a solid reason. The Trailblazers are not a great defensive team right now. They're a team that you can kind of pick on a little bit, and Tatum's in a solid spot to perform well because of that weak matchup. The ownership isn't even that high, like 20% on a 7-game slate feels about right. So I have another stud that I'm going to be over the field on, which we'll get to here soon, but I think Tatum's definitely viable here. I don't have anything bad to say. If you want to pivot off of Tatum, Jaylen Brown's always a great way of doing that, but I never have a strong take between the two when they're both healthy. To me, it's just the clear guy who's in a great spot, and then there's the pivot option who's more of a tournament play. I'll probably have exposure to both. Don't really care about Brogdon, Smart, and White when they're healthy. If I get some naturally by the domination station, I'm fine with it. Al Horford's interesting to me. At 5,500, I know he's not always the highest usage guy. Even if Nurkic, of course, if Nurkic is out and Al Horford gets to face off against Eubanks, I love Al Horford tonight. But if Nurkic plays, I'm still kind of on the fence about it. I think I like that Al Horford is playing without Robert Williams, but they have enough bigs now where they can still kind of handle some of those minutes without too much concern. But Al Horford's interesting. At 3% ownership, he's definitely on my radar as a potential leverage play. But again, feel better about it if Nurkic ends up being out. Next up, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers against the Miami Heat. Two defensive teams, both relatively healthy. Two teams I'm not very excited about playing. Lowest total on the slate. What does that mean? So it means that I don't plan on having a lot of exposure to this game, but I'm always okay with one-offs. So everyone in these games are going to be low owned because of the reasons I mentioned. Low game total means it's less likely guys have their ceiling performances. We still see on occasion one or two guys from these games still make the nuts lineup, especially on a relatively medium-sized slate. So I'm not going to erase these guys like most people will do. Right now, none of them are standing out to me, but I do want to make sure that I'm digging a little bit deeper here to make sure I'm not missing out on anything. So let's look at Mitchell and Garland in the sim model. I don't think it's really a big fan of them. 9,300, the 0.1% in the 8X column, it's fine, but it's pretty much on par with everyone else around him. Likes other guys more. And then when we look at Garland, again, he's a fine play. He has upside, but it likes other people around him a bit more. So unfortunately, might not be able to find any great super low owned plays here. I think Jimmy Butler's always viable in a game that can stay close at 1% ownership. I doubt the sim model is going to help me out here. Yeah, hates Jimmy Butler. And that's because it has a 0% 8x chance there. Again, the sim model doesn't mean doesn't mean you can't play him just because the sim model doesn't like someone. But it does. It's one more tool that I utilize when kind of trying to decide plays to use. So unfortunately, I probably won't have a ton of exposure to Jimmy Butler and crew. Kevin Love is questionable. We saw Caleb Martin see a solid boost in playing minutes. Max Strus actually started, but he still saw less minutes than Caleb Martin. Still, honestly, not my favorite spot. Caleb Martin's 4,700. And yeah, he's just such a low usage guy. Yeah, in a tough matchup, I doubt. I don't think I'll get there. We had Oladipo. No, Oladipo had a solid night not too long ago, but again, the matchup isn't my favorite. And then we get the Mavericks. Oh man, I don't like this team, to be honest with you guys. They're now on one of the many. I have like 5 teams I don't like out of 30, so it's not that bad. But the Mavs are just getting tougher and tougher. We do have Reggie Bullock listed as TBD. JaVale McGee is listed as TBD. Is interesting because it is a back-to-back for them, but they kind of need to win these games, and so I wouldn't be shocked if no one actually ends up being out for them tonight. Kyrie had a solid performance last night. Domination Station liked him a little bit, so I know some people had some exposure to him, but it wasn't something I tried to force. I'm going to be honest with you guys, and Tim Hardaway had a solid night last night too. We talked about him, but I didn't want to force exposure to him. And what I said is Tim Hardaway is a streaky shooter. If his shot's falling, he's going to take his shots. And if they fall, he usually has a good night. If he doesn't, he doesn't. I usually don't like to take shots on Tim Hardaway Jr. unless someone else is out. And this is another matchup against the Pelicans that I'm just not a fan of. So I'm really going to let the domination station control what I do here tonight. I don't think I'm going to force exposure to anyone unless something starts to pop for me when it comes to Kyrie Irving, but I don't really foresee that happening. There's still other spots in these later games that I like more. So yeah, not my favorite spot. The Pelicans, I feel like we got Trey Murphy right last time around. But I don't really remember. But Josh Richardson is healthy. Larry Nance is out. Jose Alvarado is out. Zion Williamson is out. With Richardson returning, that hurts Trey Murphy and that hurts Herb Jones. So we played Murphy and Jones because Josh Richardson was out. Richardson has been starting for the Pelicans here lately. So as long as that continues, I don't really have much interest in those three. Joval is always a volatile player. You can play bigs against the Mavs, but they play at a very slow pace. And so it's still hard for most opposing players to have ceiling performances. Let's see what the sim model thinks about Joval. I think he could be interesting just because he can have a lot of upside, especially in plus spots. Sim model likes him a little bit. Still likes my guy Jakob Poeltl a little bit more. But yeah, Joval is definitely on my radar as a potential leverage play. Because of the matchup, but the pace does worry me a little bit, so I need to look a little bit deeper into that to see if that has increased, because I feel like it might have, to be honest. So yeah, I do like Joval here. Everyone likes CJ. Everyone likes Brandon Ingram. I'll have some exposure, but again, I don't really plan on being over the field on them by a lot. JJ Wasabi, good to see you, man. All right. Oh no. Okay. Next up, we have the Bulls against the Denver Nuggets. For the Bulls, Javonte Green and Lonzo Ball are out still. Everyone's healthy. This has been a trend for this slate, man. Everyone's healthy, so no one's really standing out for me too much, unfortunately, here. Yeah, honestly, the only guy I'm usually willing to go over the field on is Vucevic. He's definitely still someone that I'm considering as a potential leverage play, but outside of him, if the domination station gives me exposure to the Levine and DeRozan, that's fine, but I'm not really trying to force it. I've been playing guards against the Nuggets for a while now, but I don't really love Chicago's guards. There are value guards that, again, because we're desperate for value right now, we kind of have to have exposure to. If I have to pick between I'm not going to put myself in that situation, but I'm okay with having exposure to Kobe White and Alex Caruso here. Just because we're desperate for value, and they play pretty consistently around 20 plus minutes. They will still need to be very efficient, but ideally someone else ends up being out on this slate, so we don't have to play this kind of value. Anything else we're missing? Not really. I do like the role Kobe White's playing on this team here lately, but he's not starting ever since. He's not starting, and Pat Bev has started to kind of dominate the minutes, and so it just really limits his upside. Caruso's fine too because he plays more minutes, but he does even less out there on the court than most of these guys do. Caruso's a great defender. That's why he sees time, but I just mean from an offensive standpoint. Great might be a little strong of a word. He's a solid defender. Next up, for the Denver Nuggets, we have Michael Porter Jr. listed as probable. Kanker is listed as questionable, and then Zeke Naji is out. Nikola Jokic is 15% owned. Can almost guarantee he'll be a leverage play for me today. Matchup is fine against Vucevic. He's a solid defender. Honestly, he's not that great. I'm not really worried about the matchup too much. I never am when it comes to Jokic. I just like that he's relatively low owned. And I feel better about him than some of the other studs on this slate, so he'll be a leverage play for me. Aaron Gordon at 4% ownership. Matchup against the Bulls is not great. It's kind of average, but 4% ownership stands out for me. So he'll almost definitely be a leverage play. I like the Nuggets tonight. In comparison to the rest of this slate, I like the Nuggets tonight. If MPJ plays, I'll be over the field on him too. Jamal Murray is a little hit or miss for me. I don't love this spot for him against the Bulls. They do a little bit better against guards. So I need to dig a little bit deeper into it to see how I feel about that by the time we get to the pre-lock show. But as of right now, pretty indifferent to it. KCP and Bruce Brown, again, we're desperate for value tonight. I'll feel better about KCP and Bruce Brown if Kanker ends up being out, but I'll probably have to have some exposure just because we're desperate for value. It hurts. It hurts. It was. I didn't love all the craziness yesterday, but at least I could play whatever low-owned stud I wanted to. Tonight it's going to be tougher to do that. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, SGA is out. And so this is where we're going to get most of our value tonight. Jalen Williams is also out. We've seen the situation enough times at this point. Okay, yeah. We've seen the situation enough times to kind of know how things should play out here. The guys who see the highest increase in usage with Giddey out are your guys Lou Dort, Trey Mann, and Giddey. I will have Trey Mann hasn't been seeing a lot of minutes, and so that's kind of his concern. But as you can see, he's a very productive player when we look at his points per minute line here. So that's why he has a high usage rate. The starting lineup should be Josh Giddey, Isaiah Joe, Lou Dort, Aaron Wiggins, and Jalen Williams. Aaron Wiggins was doing great yesterday, and then he slowed down towards the end of the game, which was disappointing. Disappointing for sure. But I still like him in a solid spot tonight. He's cheap. The Suns are a tough defense, so not my favorite spot from a defensive possession, but these guys should all be involved in this game. And again, like I've been saying all slate, we're kind of desperate for value, so I never like to say we have to do something, but we kind of have to play these guys. Dario Saric has a revenge game against the Suns. At 3,400, I'm okay with some exposure, but he hasn't been seeing a ton of run, and I don't think we're really expecting him to see a ton of run. So not something I want to go crazy with, but I do like the revenge narrative. A lot of these guys are super chalky, like Josh Giddey and Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins and Dieng all see a boost with like Jalen Williams. Not this Jalen Williams. Jalen Williams out and SGA out. Makes a ton of sense. I like these plays. Lou Dort has hurt people's feelings so much. He can be a relatively low usage guy at times. But like I said, he has the highest usage rate on this team when SGA and crew are out. So, yeah, 6K doesn't project extremely well. I still like him. If he's really going to be 4% owned, I'll be more than double the field on him. Like I said, matchup's not great, but I like usage, and he plays solid minutes. Lou Dort's someone who kind of is another streaky shooter at times, more of like a 3-and-D kind of guy. If he is more aggressive, he can definitely get there, but he's one of those guys whose shot needs to fall. So that's why you don't always love, and his price tag being 6K, you don't always love having him as like a core player or something like that, but I'm definitely willing to have like 15% if that's still going to be 3x the field. All right. And then the value options, again, we're desperate for value, so I'm going to play that. That's just kind of like my play style. Is just like I'll play the cheap value even if I don't love it, as long as it's because people are out. Playing the chalky value just because there is no better value, I usually kind of like to mitigate my risk a little bit there. For the Suns, no one's out besides Shamit. Durant played 40 minutes on Sunday, which is wild because everyone was saying he was going to play limited minutes. So, I don't really know how to feel about that at this point. I'm just going to assume Kevin Durant's going to play his normal run these days, and I'm fine with that. Devin Booker, solid form, 5% owned in a relatively soft matchup. Can almost guarantee he'll be a leverage play. Sim-Model likes him a good bit too. DeAndre Ayton has some decent ownership at 14%. I want to have exposure to him tonight. He's someone I don't want to forget about. I'm still debating on if I want to go over the field on him or not. The center position is just extremely valuable. And so I'm really just going to have to kind of like map out who I want to prioritize. He's on the list, but I don't know if he's on the list of people I want to go over on because of Jokic. Jokic really limits how much I can do on this slate. So that's why I have to kind of go back and forth on it. But he's definitely someone that I want to have at least around field weight exposure to. And that's because he's still 7,400. The matchup against the Thunder is a +1. They're not great against bigs. And any other reasons? I think that's enough. Yeah, and he has a solid usage rate still with this team, which is interesting. Yeah, I think that's it. Not interested in Paul. Not really interested in Okogie too much. The rest of this team's pretty boring. I do like this last game too. I told y'all the last games are usually better in my mind. For the Raptors, they're pretty healthy, but I say it all the time. The reason why I like the Raptors is because they run their starters into the ground when it comes to minutes. We've been Jakob Poeltl, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet. I feel like have been leverage plays almost every slate that they play. Siakam has been going pretty well for us here lately, I think. Poeltl definitely has been going well for us. If he's 10% owned, I can almost guarantee I can pretty close to guarantee that I'll have a 20% min on him and make him a leverage play for me tonight. If Fred VanVleet stays this low owned, I'm okay with being around like 6 to 10% ownership on him. I like his upside. And again, they play a ton of minutes. So I'm always willing to go heavier on the Raptors because at least I know they will see the run that they're supposed to. And Siakam is finally popular again, which is sad because we've been getting him at low ownership for so long. I don't know if I can stomach making him a leverage play, like putting a 30% min on him, but I can probably at least do 20 tonight. I do still like him here. The sim model likes him still as well. And that's all I really care about. I do wish he was lower owned. The matchup against the Clippers is fine. It's not like a extremely plus matchup or anything like that, in my opinion. But yeah, I like Siakam. I like Fred VanVleet. I like Poeltl. I like all of them. Don't plan on having a lot of exposure to Barnes or Anunoby. But yeah, I like the Clippers tonight. I mean, I like the Raptors tonight. The Clippers are interesting. They're also relatively healthy. Powell's the only one who's been out. Leonard has not. He's been okay. He's worked out for us when he's been a leverage play more often than not. But now he's 9K, 8% owned on a 7-game slate. Interesting. I like Paul George more here, to be honest. He's lower owned. Probably the thing I care the most about. I believe the sim model likes him. We'll look at it. We'll double check. 8,900, Paul George. Yeah, sim model likes him, 0.8% in comparison to the people around him. Yeah, Paul George just makes a lot more sense. I feel more confident in it now too. That now that the sim model had my back on it. DD said, when it's a leverage play, how much percent do you raise it? So for me, sorry, I didn't talk about this, but for me, a leverage play is someone that I'm going at least double the field on. So, or double their projected ownership on. So if Paul George is probably not a great example, but if Paul George is a leverage play for me tonight, which he probably will be, it'll be like a 5% min, but more realistically, when they're this low owned, I like to do a 10% min if I'm feeling pretty good about it. A better example that's more clear and probably a stronger take would be like someone like Nikola Jokic, who is at 15%. And so I'll put a 30% min on them. So just double the percentage. Double the percentage. And sometimes I'll go higher if I feel really good about it. It just depends. So yeah, Paul George for me when it comes to the Clippers tonight. Leverage play. Zubac has done pretty well historically against Jakob Poeltl, but it's just the situation with him not playing a lot of minutes now. He was already volatile before Plumlee arrived. I just don't feel as great about him now. If anything, I would be more open to playing Plumlee, but I just don't feel like we need to at the center position. I just like other guys more. Anyone else stand out? Nah, it's really Paul George and the Raptors for me tonight in the last game on the slate. Looks like Russell Westbrook's getting some ownership. I'm going to look a little bit closer at that. I don't think I'll get there. If anything, I'll be around field weight with whatever the domination station gives me, but I don't think that's a situation I'm going to try to force. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I look forward to seeing everyone on the pre-lock show where we talk through the leverage plays, the core plays, and how we're actually going to utilize the domination station tonight. That again is for VIP members only, so feel free to click the link in the description if you're interested in that. But again, I appreciate everyone for showing up and look forward to seeing how everyone does tomorrow. Congrats again to my guy Michael Ortiz for getting second place in that tournament. I can't wait to go see it in the Discord. Have a good one, guys. Bye.